I really didn't expect Fallout Season 2 to be great. My expectations were not high, and somehow, halfway through Season 2, it still managed to disappoint. We're 4 episodes in out of 8. This is the point in a season where a good show tightens the screws, raises the stakes, and makes you excited for the back half. Fallout Season 2 feels more like a tired victory lap, louder, dumber, and more convinced than ever that Fallout means throwing random references at the screen while the writers beat the lore to death with a rubber mallet. And of course, Bethesda is standing right there, nodding along and calling it canon. Fallout used to be about war, never changing. Now it's about Twitter arguments. Now, I want to be fair. It's not the worst thing ever made. It's watchable. It's sometimes entertaining. There are things it does well. But if you're an old school Fallout fan, a lot of what it's doing is going to feel wrong. And the tourists love it. People who never touched the games, never read the original manuals, never argued about NCR versus Legion on some dead message board back in 2010, they're having a great time. From their perspective, this really is one of the best video game adaptations ever made. And honestly, they're not wrong. Most video game adaptations are so horrendously bad that a show like this, with real actors, decent production, and a coherent style, will look like a masterpiece by comparison. The problem is that better than Assassin's Creed the movie is a very low bar. So let's talk about what actually works, and then why, as a Fallout fan, this season still feels like watching your favorite franchise slowly turn into its own parody. What actually works? Okay, so not everything is garbage. There are positives. The acting is mostly good. Mostly. Ella Purnell sells Lucy's mix of optimism, fear, coupled with getting more and more seasoned, albeit much slower than I was hoping. But that's on the writing side. The acting is fine. Walton Goggins as the Ghoul is still the MVP. Every time he's on screen, the show feels more alive. You can tell he understands this kind of character. Charming and mercenary on the surface, fundamentally broken underneath. The chemistry between Lucy and the Ghoul still works. Their dynamic, naive vault girl clinging to some sort of morality versus a 2-century-old monster who's seen everything should be the emotional backbone of the show. And when the script actually lets them bounce off each other, you get glimpses of what this series could have been, a brutal, darkly funny road story with a moral core. Visually, the show is solid. The wasteland looks lived in. The costumes, props, and sets mostly feel like Fallout. When they lean into New Vegas imagery, it's pure fan bait, but at least it looks good. The production clearly has money, and you can see it on screen. Creature stuff? Also not bad. Deathclaws, ghouls, the general grime and body horror, they're handled competently. You never feel like you're watching a budget project trying to cosplay Fallout. This looks like a premium show set in a Fallout-style world. So if you're a tourist who just wants post-apocalyptic show with cool monsters, good actors, and some black humor, Fallout Season 2 delivers something perfectly serviceable. But that's also where the problem starts. The pacing, a season made out of side quests. So here's the thing. We're halfway through the season, and it feels like very little has happened in the main story. We're 4 episodes in. Lucy is still chasing her father. The Ghoul is still chasing his past. The Brotherhood is still arguing over relics and politics. The NCR and Legion have been introduced, toyed with, and mostly used as props rather than serious narrative pillars. But we'll get to factions in a bit, because I have thoughts. It all moves at a snail's pace. Instead of a tight, escalating story, it feels like a string of side quests. Lucy and the Ghoul get distracted by another moral dilemma. Maximus gets sucked into yet another Brotherhood mess. We jump back to pre-war flashbacks again and again, even though the more interesting stuff is happening in the wasteland. None of this is inherently bad if it's building towards something. The problem is that structurally, it doesn't feel like build-up. It feels like stall-out. The show keeps opening doors and then wandering off before anything really pays off. That's why, even when you're not bored, you still walk away from episode 4 thinking, okay, but what did we actually do this week? If you finished episode 4, and if you think back to everything that happened in the 4 episodes thus far, you'd realize that all of this could have been told in 2 episodes easily, without cramming things in. The core misunderstanding. Fallout isn't capitalism bad, the series. Here's where I agree with the harsher critics, but I don't think they're going far enough. The show genuinely does not understand what Fallout is about. The original games weren't some edgy pamphlet about capitalism. They were about human nature. Governments, systems, ideologies changes, but human nature doesn't. The opening line, war never changes. There's a reason it's repeated across games. It's the main thesis. No matter what ideology or system you wrap it in, humans will always find a way to repeat the same cycles of power, violence, and corruption. Fallout's world is full of ideologies: democracy, fascism, techno-cults, slaver empires, corporations, religious tribes, and every single one of them uses order or progress as a mask for something uglier underneath. The show looks at that and goes, okay, cool, so Vault-Tec nuked the world for profit, and capitalism is the cartoon villain behind everything. Season 1 already pushed that dumb idea. Season 2 doubles down, treating the Great War like a corporate origin story. That's not clever. It's not subversive, it's simpler, and it shrinks the world. And of course, a lot of viewers are going to like it because it's very easy to hate the big corporations nowadays. So when a TV show comes and tells a story how one corporation was so greedy that it literally destroyed the whole world, people are going to nod and think, yes, that's exactly what a corporation like that would do. Here's the problem. When one mega company is secretly responsible for the entire apocalypse, you remove the messy, uncomfortable truth that Fallout was built on. Lots of people, lots of governments, lots of systems, all made bad choices that led to the end. It was a human failure, not a plot twist. Factions. How to ruin everything cool in 3 easy steps. Okay, this is my personal biggest gripe with this season. If you're an OG Fallout fan, the handling of the major factions in Season 2 is probably the most painful part. The NCR. In the games, the New California Republic is messy, but believable. It's a bloated, overextended, semi-functional democracy trying to export civilization into a world that doesn't want it and isn't ready for it. The NCR is corrupt, arrogant, often incompetent, but still grounded. You can imagine how it works. The show nukes Shady Sands and treats the NCR like a house of cards that collapses off one stupid plot device. A random guy with a mind-controlled chip walks straight into the Capitol with a nuke in his wagon. In a nation that supposedly runs half of California, and that's it. They're done. It doesn't feel like a serious political entity. It feels like a setup for a cool explosion and a trauma backstory, nothing more. Caesar's Legion. In New Vegas, the Legion is terrifying because they're actually competent. Brutal, yes. Barbaric, absolutely. But militarily effective, disciplined, ideologically coherent, in the worst possible way. Season 2 takes that and turns them into a joke. Instead of a looming slaver empire, we get a weird little LARP camp. Civil war staged like a bad sketch, with tiny groups yelling over Caesar's corpse, acting like clowns instead of zealots. Their leader is written like a parody villain. Their rituals feel like Twitter jokes about Roman LARPers, not the kind of steel-hard cult that could ever threaten the NCR or anyone else. It's not that they changed the Legion, it's that they stripped away everything that made them scary. I mean, the only thing missing is Caesar's Legion being ruled by a girl boss of color. Perhaps they could call her Caesarina or something. Brotherhood of Steel. The Brotherhood in the games is already a complicated faction. Sometimes they're basically techno-fascists, sometimes stubborn isolationists, sometimes uneasy allies. But one thing they rarely are is utterly stupid. In the show, they have giant zeppelins and massive military power, but somehow no coherent strategy. Their elders are portrayed like bickering politicians in cosplay. Their soldiers constantly act like idiots with high-tech toys. And then there's the Cold Fusion Relic plotline, an excuse for a Brotherhood civil war that feels less like a clash of doctrine and more like an excuse for more fights and explosions. I mean, Dane literally just walks in the room where Cold Fusion Relic is and takes it. When I was watching that scene, I remember thinking to myself, nah, there's gotta be some hidden security system that's gonna activate any second now. No way they just left it completely unguarded like that. But nope, that's exactly what they did. No squires, no knights, no guards of any kind, no security system. It's not even hidden, it's just there in plain sight for literally anyone to take. Instead of a dangerous order trying to preserve tech on its own terms, the Brotherhood becomes a meme factory. You can't take them seriously as one of the pillars of this world anymore. Lore. A big part of why tourists love the show and longtime fans hate it is how it uses the lore. If you've never played the games, the references just feel like world building. Cool cities, bizarre factions, weird technology, ironic music choices. If you have played the games, it's hard not to see it as a long string of remember this moments. Hey, it's New Vegas. Hey, it's Victor. Hey, it's that mascot. Hey, it's that faction name. But under the surface, the logic has been gutted. Locations are moved or repurposed because it's convenient. Factions are rewritten to fit modern allegories. Technology and timelines bend around the needs of this season's plot. That's why it feels like a theme park. You recognize the shapes, but the soul is off. Tone, prestige TV, stitched onto a shitpost. Another problem that becomes really obvious by mid-season is that the show still doesn't know what tone it wants. 1 minute, it's playing things as prestige drama. There's trauma, addiction, moral compromise, war crimes, slavery, nuclear horror. The next minute, it swerves into Marvel-style quips, meta jokes, and lol, isn't this crazy humor? Dark humor is part of Fallout, absolutely. I have no problem with that. But in the games, the humor usually heightens the horror. Here, it often undercuts it. Something genuinely awful happens, and instead of letting it sit, the script rushes in with a gag or a pop culture flavored bit of dialogue. We don't get clever contrast, we get emotional whiplash. It feels less like a unified vision and more like 3 different shows fighting for screen time. A serious post-apocalyptic drama, a dark comedy, and a meta-aware shitpost aimed at social media. Why tourists love it and fans don't. Now, this is where the tourist thing actually makes sense. If you're new to Fallout, you don't know what they changed about NCR or Legion or Brotherhood. You don't care where Shady Sands is supposed to be on the map. You're not comparing every choice to New Vegas or Fallout 1-2. What you see is good actors, decent pacing by generic streaming standards, big visual moments, some emotional beats that land, and a world that feels deep, even if you don't see the cracks. On top of that, critics are eating it up. Review aggregators are giving Season 2 generally favorable scores, 70+ on Metacritic. For critics, this is a smart, stylish, well-acted adaptation of a game franchise they only vaguely know. So, of course, the tourists like it. They're not wrong from their perspective. But if you're one of the people who actually lived in this universe for hundreds of hours, this show keeps stepping on landmines that nobody in the writer's room seems to see. Bethesda's fingerprints. This isn't just Amazon doesn't get Fallout. Bethesda signed off on all of this. They're helping steer it. The decision to make Vault-Tec literally responsible for the end of the world, treat NCR, Legion, and Brotherhood as exaggerated caricatures, lean heavily into New Vegas imagery while gutting New Vegas nuance, and lock this entire interpretation in as canon for future seasons and cross-media, that's not TV license freedom, that's IP strategy. From a corporate point of view, it makes sense. They want Fallout to be a big, accessible brand. Bright visuals, cool armor, easily recognizable factions, obvious themes. You can sell that to people who have never used AP in VATS in their life. But the cost of that is clear. For older fans, the world feels flatter, less dangerous, less honest. The moral ambiguity and messy politics get replaced with cleaner allegories and punchier lines. So where does that leave Season 2? Halfway through Season 2, my verdict is this. As a show on its own, it's probably a 5 or 6 out of 10. Watchable, sometimes fun, sometimes frustrating. As a Fallout story, it's a downgrade from what the franchise has already done in game form. The positives are real: strong acting, good production values. Lucy and the Ghoul still have a compelling dynamic. A few episodes have genuinely strong scenes and images that feel like Fallout. But the problems are built into the spine. Snail-paced plotting that feels like wandering from side quest to side quest. A fundamental misunderstanding of Fallout's themes. Factions turned into jokes or shallow allegories. Lore used more as a checklist of references than a coherent world. A tone that can't decide if it wants to be serious, satirical, or just content. If you're a tourist, you'll probably keep having fun with it, and that's okay. If you're a fan, you'll probably keep watching, but more out of morbid curiosity and attachment to the IP than genuine excitement. For me, right now, Fallout Season 2 is not unwatchable. It's just not the Fallout I was hoping for, and that might actually be worse. Instead of ruining everything and making an absolute abomination of a show, they took something incredible and turned it into something aggressively mediocre. It's polished, profitable, and slowly erasing the version of Fallout that made us care in the first place.